So hi there everybody, welcome to the Voosestore YouTube channel. Today we have a very special person here with us. This is Olle and he's a new part of the team. Today we're going to talk about the Blackmagic Pocket 6K camera and the pro version of it. And this is because you, Olle, you've used it a little bit and you've shot a wedding with it.
Yeah, I've been using the Pocket 4K for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been my main camera for a couple of years. Yeah. And I've been thinking of switching over to the 6K and like going back and forth. And now it's like using this camera, because the 6K was like a 50-50 for me if I was gonna change over or not. But this camera is like, it's got so much more, so much like big changes that really quality of life improvements and stuff like that. Like shooting with it just becomes so much easier now.
Yeah.
So yeah, after this experience, I'm pretty set on switching over pretty soon. We'll see when the opportunity arises.
To the 6K camera.
Yeah, to the 6K Pro.
Yeah. So if you could pinpoint it, what would be the first feature that would make you
ND filters, built-in ND.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's such a hassle when shooting on the go, because that's what I like not always do, but often. And yeah, you just on and off with filters, all that stuff. Yeah, it's just removed now, and just exposing makes it's just so much easier with the built-in NDs. And they've, what I've heard, removed like the blue tint that everybody was talking about in the firmware, like.
As I understand it, or as I've seen, there's actually a blue tint on the filter itself, a very slight bit. I was actually going to ask you about that. They did remove the blue tint from the back screen, however, and you have the choice of changing the color of the back screen. Yeah.
I think I was on pretty much the same ND for the whole wedding shoot, so that's not a big problem. Maybe I switched it from going outside to inside, of course, but I didn't really notice that much. I tweaked some stuff in post, but it was mainly of course you do some sort of like color balancing afterwards, and then you can, but I mean, I haven't seen that tint really, like, I didn't see it as a big problem.
Yeah. Honestly, I've shot with the camera and I've actually done some tests with it to see the blue tint. And to my experience is that if you compare it to shooting with different lenses and you're using different ND filters from different brands, this is still so much more easier because you actually know you have the 2, 4, and 6 stops, and you know that if you're shooting on the 6th stop, you know that you should just pull back the blues a little bit and then you're set. So for me personally, it's not a big issue. No. Of course, it would have been better if it wasn't there, but for the money.
Yeah, and if you're using this camera, you can kind of get used to that and the adjustment you have to make, and just like, okay, so it's always like this. Yeah. Instead of using different kinds and different brands and having to like learn all of them. So yeah, it's a very minor problems, I see it. Yeah. And I guess the second one, because it was kind of like, should I bring a monitor or should I not? Because I have the Shinobi.
Could you just show us your setup?
This was the setup for the wedding. So
the small setup.
The small setup. And it is a kind of a small setup. It's heavy, but it's small. And so we have the Blackmagic 6K Pro with the battery grip and the EVF, the DZO Film Pictor Zoom 20-55 T2.8, and the Came TV clip-on matte box with Tiffen Pro Mist filter, 4th Pro Mist. Yeah.
Did you use a Monopod as well for it?
Yes, the Monopod, which is like the biggest thing. That's the biggest. It wasn't that much of an issue, but the problem with this setup is that it's heavy. Yeah. It's like, it is pretty damn heavy, and in retrospect, I should have removed this and like just had a couple of batteries in my pockets. But yeah, with the Monopod, it's actually manageable. Yeah. Because like we were shooting a whole day, and I guess I'm kind of used to like shooting for a long time handheld, but still I didn't like get any ache in my wrist or anything. But the Monopod really helped, because then you can also like, you can actually, I'd like something here to just put the real balanced weight on the Monopod, but it was still totally fine. Just to, if you have like, if you're still doing focus, you have your hand up here, so it's like it's not hard to balance.
One thing I just would like to tell the audience is that you will see the whole wedding video in the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. With that said, you could actually, because the DZO lens has a quarter inch thread in the front, you could actually build up some kind of rod system where you could put your balance more forward.
Right there.
But
yeah, exactly. But yeah, so weight. Definitely a con, but it's fixable with using Monopod or something like that. And I've actually used this complete setup once more, shooting. It was a promotion for a camper van thing, and we were going around the countryside and just like jumping out of the car, taking different shots in with scenery or the van driving by or all of that stuff. Maybe we have to take a break now because the students are celebrating. Yeah,
we have some crazy students taking their graduation and going around with cars here. Yeah. But yeah, it doesn't matter too much.
No. But yeah, that was also kind of a testament of its handheld capabilities and just basically having this kit on and having the tripod. And I was sitting in the back seat and I could just jump out, click it on and start shooting. Because also what I really like about Blackmagic cameras is that they're so fast in turning on. Yeah, it's like 3 seconds maybe, and then you can just press record. Yeah. And I was using like a red camera for another shoot. It's so slow. Yeah. It takes like 30 seconds or something. Yeah. You just stand there waiting, and it's fine when it's a controlled shoot. It doesn't matter, but when it's documentary stuff, that's actually very important to have, to just be quick about it and just wreck. Because you can also. With the battery life, this is obviously much better than the 4K, but you can't have it on the whole time. Yeah. You just can't. So it's important for me that you can just turn it on really quick.
One thing I would like to add to that is that when it comes to cinema cameras, weight is actually something that most of the time, you don't want to have your camera too small because then you will have a problem with the stabilization. Yeah. Now we have the cops going around here. I think it's one of those days, but yeah. So stabilization, sometimes it could be a good thing that it's a little bit heavier, of course not too heavy. Here, of course, you have the option to go with other lenses, but you chose to shoot with the DZO because it was your first time shooting with the DZO lenses.
Yeah, exactly. I was excited to try it. Yeah. And like mainly, of course, image quality is like, it's really, really good. I'm used to shooting with the Sigma 18-35, which is like
a lot of people do.
Yeah, and it's below half of the price of this, and you can really see a shift in. I mean, I love the Sigma, but you can really see a shift in the quality.
It's almost a third, actually. It's
exactly.
Very cheap and good lens.
Yeah, it's really good. But just like stopless. Aperture and the smoothness of all the wheels, it just feels really well made, even though it's a budget cinema lens. Yeah. But yeah, even maybe the thing is, it's a bit long. Yeah. But I get that it needs to be that long because it's got 3 wheels and all that stuff. But like doing handheld, you kind of have to keep your whole hand out here, and it's easy when you're like adjusting focus or something that you're like oops and shift that. But like it's mostly about getting a good grip of the camera. Once you have that, you can just go for it. And also, I mean, if you're using rods or something, then you're fine. I mean.
I know that a lot of people who use the Sigma lens sometimes defer to other lenses because the Sigma is almost too sharp. And the Pictor lenses from DZO, they're actually made to be true cinema lenses gives you a certain character, and they're not like tack sharp, but they do have another character, which you will see in the video. I saw that in one of the shots that you did take, so that you actually used the abilities of this lens, because it is parfocal when you use the chimps. You did zoom in slightly, and the focus was still on point.
It is crazy for a lens that's, what is it, 20 Swedish K, so $2,000?
I think it's actually closer to 3K.
Yeah, okay, yeah, right. But still, getting a parfocal lens 2.8 zoom is pretty crazy. I actually tried it out because I don't do that much zooming in my shots. I tend to do that maybe some small zoom in post to get a feeling. But yeah, I did some tests at the wedding, like tried it, and it's really pretty damn good. And I've heard people that say you have to calibrate it and like go in and tinker with small stuff. But
I've done that on that lens.
Oh, okay.
So I actually had
fine,
to do that.
Yeah, but it's still impressive. I mean, for a lens in this class, it was really nice.
Yeah. Another thing, because I know that we were talking about this before the wedding. You don't use EVFs too much.
No.
I'm a big fan of EVFs, and when Blackmagic came out with this EVF, I was like, finally. And we when Blackmagic actually were here at Voosestore like 2 years ago, they asked us, is there one thing that about these cameras or in general that we should make? And I was like, you should make a cheap EVF. They do make like the URSA EVF that we have here somewhere and that I've used a lot. But for the pocket cameras, I mean, like today we have blue skies, almost summer.
And I actually used it at the
you
wedding.
Did?
Yeah, not for like 2-3 shots maybe. But it is crazy because like, it's just really well made, and it's impressive that you can just screw it off, and it's a mini HDMI. You just click it in. So I like that it's detachable. You can just remove it if you don't want to use it. But it was in some of the, because what I also wanted to say with, like, I'm always bringing my Shinobi monitor when I'm using the 4K. So I was thinking
you basically have to.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
if you don't have a monitor with you, I was actually shooting with the 4K a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
It's you have to have a monitor.
But I mean, both tiltability and the sheer brightness of it makes it so that you really don't.
Yeah. Now you're talking about the back screen. Yeah.
Exactly. But still, there was like 1 or 2 shots where I actually needed to get this because there was like flaring and just too much sun in different ways. So I actually used the EVF to get my focus, and it's really, 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 really great. Yeah. But yeah, this is my biggest thing, like being able to tilt it upwards, because it's always with the 4K, it's like using a monitor or having the camera up here, and then it gets even heavier. Yeah.
And also, you don't always want to shoot from eyesight.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Different.
Kind of want it down there sometimes.
To me, honestly, the back screen is almost the biggest thing about this camera, because for me, I mean, we will talk about the battery life as well, but the screen actually makes me use this more like a everyday camera where you just can take the camera and go out and shoot. Yeah. Whereas with the 4K and the normal 6K, you actually need to think about
rig it out.
Yeah, you have to rig it out at least with a top screen, and that means that you have to think about battery for the monitor itself, and then you're on, and then you might as well take like a V-mount solution.
Then we can go into the FX Lion setup that I use with my small setup. Yeah, that's genius. With just
you're talking about the 4K.
Yeah, with the 4K, FX Lion has Sony MP adapter to V-mount battery.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I put on my Shinobi and just detap it right into my camera. That's a really good setup. Yeah. But still,
this is better.
This is better. Yeah. It's way easier. But with the camera body, it is kind of plasticky, and that's the 4K is that as well. And that's just, I mean,
it's basically the same plastic on the 4K as on the 6K.
And it feels a bit weird, but that's because I've gotten used to using it with a cage, where it feels like metal, because you're holding metal and you're not holding the plastic. Yeah.
And here, because you don't need to have a cage if you want the setup.
No, exactly.
Then it's a little bit more plastic.
Yeah, if I'd have this, I guess I'd get a cage either way. As well, because sometimes you just want to smash stuff on there. But yeah, it really works without it with this screen.
Yeah, you aren't probably running gunning all the time. I mean, for many shoots, you still do need to have a second screen or something like that. And exactly. So this was like more in a scenario where you were shooting a wedding and running gunning a lot, and So you've used the 4K.
Yes.
And the 4K is very similar to the normal 6K in that the battery life is kind of awful,
Yeah,
and it's not always reliable because there can be shutdowns depending on.
I mean, when I was using it under like 20%, I don't know how many volts it is, but I had that in my mind when I was using the Canon batteries for it, or the LP6. But yeah, under 20%, basically, it can shut off anytime. So that's when you need to change it, and that's maybe max half an hour. Yeah. So I actually went over to using V-mounts really fast. But then again, you have to like kit your camera out because you have an external battery. You gotta have that somewhere. Yeah. But just bringing like 6 LP6 batteries it's a hassle because also you have to change it so often. Yeah, you can't really be sure that you can get a long shot if you're like on 30-40%, which is, Yeah.
When it comes to this setup, you did use the battery grip, and
yes.
I can tell you like this, one of the big differences between the battery grip on the 6K Pro and the difference on the 4K and the 6K normal model is that you can actually have 3 batteries here at the same time, which is very nice. On the other cameras, you actually just can have 2 batteries, and that's a big thing. And did you have any trouble with battery life during the...
No. I had these 3 batteries in, and it worked for the whole day. But yeah, that is pretty crazy, and it's almost weird that nobody's done it before. So you have the first battery here, and then 2 of them in it. And yeah, almost every other battery grip is like with this little battery-shaped chunk in here that you connect it with.
I think the Panasonic GH5 has a battery grip that is similar to this.
Yeah. So yeah, using this battery grip with 3 NP batteries, I didn't have to change one of them for the whole day. Yeah,
and we shot for like from 11 or 12?
11 to like 7 at least. Yeah.
And to say, I mean, I know that there are wedding videographers who go out and shoot a wedding, and they're out there to take like every footage from all the angles. Yeah. Your job wasn't really to do that. It was more like to take snippets of the best parts and then to
make like a 1 or 2 minute vibey
like
video.
A promo almost.
Yeah, exactly. So of course, like bigger projects and stuff, you should just bring more batteries. But still, battery life. If you're also comparing to the 6K or the 4K, it's a huge difference. Yeah.
So tell me about the settings that you were using on the camera, because I mean that's a big part of why you shoot with this camera.
Shooting in Blackmagic RAW, using it in like editing and then grading in DaVinci is just so nice. Of course, I use proxies, which I've been using the last couple of years, but still being able to compress it, I think we used 5 or 8 times compression. Okay. It just makes it something like this is half a terabyte instead of like 3 terabytes because it's raw. I really like that. I shot it in 6K, delivered in 4K, so you have quite a bit to crop in and not lose any real quality.
And you shot at 50 frames per second, I think.
Yes, because I, like when I do these kinds of videos, I shoot like some kind of vibey videos for completely different reasons or brands or whatever. But I feel like slow motion was an easy fit for weddings and stuff. And of course, you can like. I don't like shooting in 50 and then speeding it up to 25 because then you lose the motion blur and stuff like that. But like speeding it up a little bit, like 120, 130%, that's totally fine. And then you can kind of at least control the flow of the video with like pushing some clips a bit faster and keeping the other ones in 50 frames. But it's just really smooth, and that combined with the smoothness of the sensor, it's like a creamy nice image with a sharp lens, so you don't really lose any detail. And if you like the sharper vibe, you can also just like bump it up in sharpness in post.
And to all of you that haven't used the Blackmagic camera before, the Blackmagic RAW file is also almost made to be sharpened up in post.
Yeah.
So you have the ability to do that. Also, you used a filter.
Yes, the Black Mist, the Tiffen Black Mist 4th, or quarter, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
And it is it's just such a nice little enhancer, and just making the footage, especially when you're outside or just with a lot of light sources, because everything is just glowing a little bit. And there's tons of videos showing this and showing examples of that. But and I find that quarter strength is a sweet spot, because like eighth, you kind of almost don't notice it, and half is, I get that for like big effect stuff, like really. But yeah, half is, for me, it's too much when it's just like documenting stuff or making a video like this. It would be too distracting. But yeah, quarter, Black Mist or Pro Mist is, yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Olle, for sharing your experience. This is our first video together, and hopefully we'll make a lot of more videos here on the Voosestore YouTube channel. Now we're gonna have a look at the video that you've made, and you also cut it.
Yeah.
And so guys, if you have any questions for us, or for me, or for Olle, please leave those questions in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe, like this video, subscribe to the channel, of course. So until the next time, see you soon, and bye-bye.
Ciao.